Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Buy Your Build Garage. Today we're going to be doing a clutch job on the Shop Ranger over here. So the other week we had the clutch give out on us. The slave cylinder or the master cylinder probably went bad, not sure yet, but we're going to start tearing into it soon. We got a brand new Flywheel. All this stuff came from Rock Auto. It's a great source for cheap auto parts when you have daily maintenance or whatever. We got the Flywheel, we got a brand new CarQuest clutch. Got a pilot bearing, new rear main seal, just because we're in there. It's a $2 part, might as well replace it. And then we have a full clutch hydraulic replacement kit. And if I show you guys, these Ford Rangers are known to use an internal slave cylinder. So basically, instead of having a slave cylinder and then a clutch fork, you have, I'll show you, a slave cylinder, clutch fork, and a pilot bearing, or sorry, a throwout bearing. You have a full assembly that sits inside the transmission that pushes on the pressure plate. The advantage to this is, you get, well, really there's no advantages. This stinks. When they break, you can't replace them easily. The transmission has to come down, and they do have a tendency to fail often. So we'll be replacing this one when we tear everything apart, along with the rest of the hydraulic system for the clutch. Including the master, the reservoir, and everything else. We're going to have to pull the shift boot, the shifter surround, and then the shift lever. So all that holds the shift boot in, there's these little Phillips head screws in the back and in the front. Take those out, then we'll get down to the shift lever assembly, and I'll show you how to remove that. Alright, so our surround is loose. I'm just taking the shift knob off now. Once I get this off, I'm going to pull this around, and we're going to pull the shift lever. So just a little quick trick for getting this pin out. These shifters are all, 30 years old, 40 years old, so it's a little bit difficult to get them out. If you take the nut that retains it, move it over to the other side, it's hard to see, then you grab a ratchet and you start tightening. Once I get it tight, finger tight, you can see it on the other side. Once I start tightening, it'll start pulling the stud through, and it should release the pin. Some of them will just hammer out fine, but this one's really stuck in there, so go. That's how you do it. Pin comes right out. You can see how it's got like that cam bolt shape. That's what slots in and wedges it in place. And then the shift lever just pulls right off. So now that we're under the truck, I'm just going to give you a basic overview of all the stuff we're going to be doing. So we're first going to disconnect the drive shaft from the rear diff. And up here, you're going to drain the fluid out of the transmission, pull the drive shaft out of the trans, disconnect all the electronics on the transmission, disconnect the clutch hydraulic line, and then we should be good to unbolt the bell housing bolts, all of them up in there. Then we can drop the transmission down by unbolting the transmission mount. And then once we get that down and out, we'll get on to replacing the clutch and all the stuff in there. The rear drive shaft flange is just held in with some 12.12 mils. I just thought it was notable because it only accepts a 12 point. Went ahead and got our drive shaft pulled here. Ford, in their infinite wisdom, decided to use a spline-style inlet and then a flange-style output. That just means that you have to drain the transmission every time you pull these, because otherwise it'll leak transmission fluid everywhere. Luckily, our U-joints are still nice and tight. Front here, good. So this drive shaft is good for another run. As for the rest, our transmission output seal's in great shape, hasn't been leaking. So now I just gotta start disconnecting the wiring harness, getting everything ready for the transmission to get dropped. Also, really quick before I continue, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I think this Mod 5 is, unironically, the best manual transmission I've ever driven. The gear stick goes straight into the transmission, like, you feel everything. It's a joy to shift. And I've driven a lot of different manual cars over the years. I love this thing. Alright, so some time has passed since I did that last update. We have all the bell housing bolts out of the transmission, and the starter has been removed. I have it dangling. It's fine to do this. The wiring's strong enough to hold it. I have the transmission cross brace partially pulled, and I'm going to be completely real. The only reason I didn't fully remove this is because the bolt is too rusty to remove on that side. So I'm leaving that one in. Transmission mounts unbolted, exhaust hangers unbolted, and the harness is hanging down there. One of the funny things I want to show off is sometimes when you're a mechanic, you have to come up with some goofy ways to get bolts out. The top right bell housing bolt, the one on the exhaust manifold side, is too difficult to get at with a wrench, so I came up with this little contraption. It's just every single extension I could find in the toolbox. But hey, it worked. I got it all out. The only remaining thing is this clutch. I can show it. This clutch hydraulic line up here. I'm probably going to end up cutting this because the quick disconnect for it's broken and I can't remove it. We have all new hydraulics anyway, so it doesn't really matter if I have to break this, because we're going to be replacing it either way. One other thing I wanted to mention while we're pulling the transmission, when I do a transmission or anything related to clutches or whatever, I always like to mark where the bolts came out of the transmission. So what I do is I take a piece of cardboard, I stick them in there. This will mark out for me where everything needs to go back. Some of these bolts are like different lengths. It's kind of hard to see, but some of the transmission bolts are longer or shorter depending on their placement. So I like to keep track of them. It takes all the guessing work out of putting it back together. Alright, so we went ahead and got the transmission dropped out. This thing's actually in pretty decent shape. The internal sleeve likely has failed, but the input shaft doesn't have any real play to it, so it should be still good for use. Coming up here, I'm going to show we got our old clutch here. It's definitely been replaced at some point. This is a non-OEM clutch. It's not a Ford product, and stuff has definitely been touched before. But it's still pretty old and needs to be replaced. So we're going to get on that now, drop the pressure plate, and see the condition of the clutch. Alright, so got the old pressure disc pulled. Just want to show off some of what we got here. The clutch, while it still has good material on it and it's not down to the rivets yet, there's a lot of heat cracking in the actual clutch disc itself. You'll get this when the clutch has been overheated or it's been ridden too much. You can see it more on the pressure plate. It's got some bluing in it, so it's definitely been hot at some point. And then up here, we got our flywheel. Same thing. You can see some spots where it's been hot in the past. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's a good thing that we're replacing it along with the rest of our clutch hydraulics. That way we just know that it'll work. And then I'm also going to be replacing our pilot bearing and our rear main seal. For the pilot bearing, I'm going to use the bread and grease trick, where you jam a bunch of grease and bread into the hole, hammer a socket in there, or an extractor, or an extension, excuse me, and then pop it out. You can normally do it with a puller, but I like to do it this way because it's fun. Well, we've got what may very well be the world's most poisonous peanut butter and jelly sandwich right here. This is our old pilot bearing. This is what the transmission input shaft likes to sit in the back of the engine. So I just hammered a bunch of bread and grease into the back of it, gave it a good swing, and it pops right out. I've had really good success with this method, and the nice thing with this is that if you do fail, you don't have the risk of damaging the bearing like you would with a puller. So that's why I always opt to do this one first. Now we're going to pull the rear main seal, because we do actually have a small rear main seal leak. You couldn't notice it before, but it was starting. Alrighty, so we got our new rear main seal and our pilot bearing up in there. Now it's just time to do a little bit of cleanup and then begin our reassembly. We're going to mount up the new flywheel, torque down all the bolts to spec, throw our clutch on there, throw our pressure plate on there, and then get the transmission back on. One of the other things I wanted to mention, one of the things I actually like about this Ford design, you can't really see it in there, but these Ford pilot bearings, they use a needle roller design. A lot of the older, like Japanese motors and stuff, they'll use a pilot bushing instead of a bearing. I vastly prefer the needle roller style. They tend to last a little bit longer, so it's good that they're using the style on this motor. Alright, so our new flywheel's up there. Now we just got to throw our new clutch and our new pressure plate up there, get it all buttoned up, and put the trans on. So our clutch assembly is finally all back up. We got our pressure plate torqued down, our clutch held in the center, our clutch splines are all nice and lubed up. So now we just got to deal with swapping out the slave cylinder on the transmission. I'll show you guys that. So we got our old slave cylinder assembly here. These are internal slave, so when they fail, they're impossible to get at, which stinks. We're going to replace this one and put in a fresh one. And yeah, I'll show you guys that in one sec. Alrighty, so I've got our two slave cylinders right here side by side. This is our old one, this is our new. I believe this is the culprit for why we were having all the clutch issues we did. As you can see, the seals itself on this slave cylinder are all blown out. There's no dust boot, and just generally this one is a lower quality part. We have a CarQuest brand one here, or I believe either the CarQuest or SKF. I can't remember, but they're both comparable quality-wise. The throwout bearing on this one, it's kind of hard to convey over video, but the throwout bearing's in very good shape. Whereas opposed to the old one, the throwout bearing, it's kind of trashed. So I believe this was the cause of all of our primary issues, but replacing the clutch was good preventive maintenance along with the rear main seal and the pilot bearing. Alrighty, it is a brand new day. We just got the clutch job all buttoned up on this guy. Take it underneath. Drive shaft's back in. Transmission's back in. All the bell housing bolts are tightened down. Electronics are plugged in. The only thing remaining to do is we got to replace the rest of the clutch hydraulic system. So we're going to throw in our new master cylinder and our new reservoir, along with the new line. So we'll get that all plugged up and then take the truck for a test drive. I wasn't going to make a video on this, but the clutch hydraulics were such a fight to get out, I decided that I'd film it. The rods are one-time use. Once they've been snapped into the master cylinder, they can't be removed, at least easily, because you can't get at the snap ring. So to get this thing out, you have to finagle the entirety of this length through the firewall over there, and there's not enough room to do it, so I ended up having to, like, force it out. It's a mess. And I had to cut off the line for the master cylinder, the reservoir. So that was fun, but hopefully the new one should be a little bit easier to install than this one. Alrighty, moment of truth. Did all our clutch repairs work? Let's find out. Just gonna pump the clutch a couple times, get the master, any air out of it. There's the parking brake. Let's see. Oh wow, that binds all the way at the bottom. Yeah, that's perfect.